20th, 2017.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comment? I just got these minutes, I haven't been through them yet, so I'm gonna. If anyone wants to go with their updates, you can while I read through these.
I attended the LEPC meeting last Thursday and also the forest plan meeting in Helena for the new forestry plan for Helena Lewis and Clark National Forest.
I attended also the LEPC meeting and the forest plan revision meeting. Also, there was a social services meeting that we attended. Teresa spoke about the things that she's doing with public health and frankly just hitting a home run, one after the next after the next. We also had an Elkhorn Restoration Committee meeting. We will be filing, actually, we did file an amicus brief on the Johnny Crow Wildlife Habitat Restoration Project. And we got Jefferson County as one of our partners. Broadwater and Jefferson have submitted a grant to the Forested Counties Coalition for some help funding that, and the lead is going to be the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Our attorney is Katie Feeback, who did the Stonewall project. YJC had a meeting last week. We started our 3-year plan. That's the Youth Justice Council. And that plan is required for us to qualify for any grants for juveniles, be it detention or prevention of crime. Board of Crime Control, we also met last week, the new director and I. BCDC was last week, and the airport board is switching their gas credit system. They expect to be able to save quite a bit of money and headache with that. Those are all in one day. We also had a community meeting on Friday. So that is about it. Any
These
questions?
meetings, LEPC was one of them, otherwise, business as usual. And as far as the minutes,
I have a question about the commissioner's update, if I may. Did either of you attend the Board of Health meeting?
oh, yeah. Oh, on that, I had a note on that. I was here and there was not a quorum, so it was, it'll be the next meeting. I think 27, something like that.
So did you discuss the NACCHO, N-A-C-C-H-O membership?
We didn't discuss anything.
Okay, that is due the end of December, so we'll need to have that actually submitted before then. So that is the National Association of County Health Organizations. I think it's, well, it is our Board of Health board. Are you good with re-upping that membership? Like support of the board before I ask Julie or myself to put in the work to get that done?
I would be in support of that, yes.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and get that done, and if the next Board of Health meeting is not too late, we can take care of it there. Otherwise, the commission can go ahead and take care of it, just to make sure it gets done before the end of the year.
I
So,
think there was
thank you.
about 6 here, but there wasn't a quorum. And I started saying these minutes, I got additions to add to those, so at this point, I'm not in favor of bringing them forward.
Monday morning?
As those were emailed out last week, I am going to make a motion that we approve the minutes as they were presented.
I don't know why I got what come was, November 6th is what come to me.
Yeah, that was last week,
This, on the 13th.
or the
I
week
did
before,
not get
excuse me.
these.
Your name is on the email, I'd be happy to go get that right now if you wanna see it.
I don't know, all I know is I didn't have them.
I'm gonna just have that for the record.
How are they going?
Good. Geez, I must have chased everybody out of here, see?
These minutes can be held anyway because normally we try to get them to end before the end of, if there's any additions or corrections. But we're having it, and it can still be held as far as I'm concerned. Did you get that, Ann, that on the health board, there was not a quorum, so we didn't have
I
it?
have that note.
Okay.
The reason I'm bringing this forward is we've just got way too much work that just simply isn't getting done. Email is the proper mode of communication for us in between meetings because it is the most trackable and public. We're not supposed to be calling each other. We're not supposed to be getting together to talk about business other than in meetings or structured venues. So when the meetings and the minutes are sent out via email, we need to be responsible to those reading them and responding to them. So this email was sent out Wednesday, November 15th. It was sent to Doug Ellis, myself, Franklin Salifka, Mike Delger, and Corey Swanson. Draft 11/13/17 minutes. They were attached, and I submit that for the record.
And I want on the record also that I, for some reason, did not receive them, and that I feel there should be some corrections to be made to these minutes. And I want that on the record. If there's nothing else in the minutes, we'll move on. Don't look like we have any COS reviews, so just a minute or so ahead, so WWSC Engineering.
You're up. Oh. All right. First and foremost, I've come requesting signatures. Again. What you're seeing in front of you today are reimbursement requests to DES for both Dry Creek and Deep Creek. Now these are in way different formats because of the timing of the projects. So this one is Deep Creek. And since now we were not able to submit any draw requests until our scope of work change was completed. So that's why you see a $68,000 reimbursement request coming in at this point. Obviously, the ones that are coming in over the next few months will be big because we got the contractor out working today. But that's what these are all about. It's basically reimbursing you for bills you've already paid. I'll start with that part. Those have already also been reviewed by Nadine, so hopefully they're just a formality at this point. And I apologize, I only did bring one copy of this, but here are the bids essentially for Wilson.
Okay.
In all, we got about shaved off by rebidding it. I think the low bid was around 25,000 last time. Low bid this time is around 17.6. I did talk to Wilson. We are still having a little bit of a discussion about exactly what needs to be built there based off of Ron Spoon's request. Mr. Wilson is working that out with Mr. Spoon, but he did inform me this morning that he will basically go forward with either bid. And as you remember, we bid that with a base bid, which was basically riprap filled with soil and willow cuttings, and then also the same dirty riprap with basically it's rolls of fabric material that you put soil in and then roll it up, and you call them core logs, and then you stake them into the ground. So regardless of whichever way we have to go, Mr. Wilson's on board with doing that and moving forward. So I guess what I would say at this point is I need approval, I guess, for the low bidder to be BSE and to issue a notice of award. We will wait on the notice to proceed until we get those details lined out, if that's okay.
Sure. I will move that we accept the lowest, most responsible bid of BSE's in the amount of $17,655.
Or, you'll have to say
Or.
or.
Do you want the
Bid
other-
alternate two, yes, please.
Oh, okay, or alternate one of $20,278.
Correct, thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. It's been moved to second to accept this bid for BSE as stated. Any more discussion? No more discussion, go to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And I guess as long as you guys are okay, I'll continue to work out those details with Mr. Wilson. Once we have that done, we'll go ahead and just issue notice of award, notice to proceed, and go from there. So a little update on the Deep Creek project. Your crews have been out working on Carson Lane, and I gotta say, doing a very good job. So I wanna put a nice plug in for TJ and crew out there. They did a really good job of getting that going. We had the contractor come out and review their excavation on Thursday of last week. They wanted a few minor tweaks, which they're out there this morning and have already taken care of. And so the contractor's happy with everything, and he is moving to the site today, kind of start. Basically, they've, like I say, the rough grade excavation has been completed. The contractor will be fine grading excavation today, setting fabric and riprap today and tomorrow, and then getting the foundations prepped for the abutments. So that'll happen this week. Next week's activities will basically be the nuts and bolts of getting your new bridge in Carson Lane. They're gonna drive piles on Monday and probably Tuesday, set beams Wednesday-ish, and probably get everything set by the end of next week. So it's gonna be a busy week next week out on Carson Lane, but.
Yeah. How far are they driving those pilings?
The target depth is 40 feet, and but that'll depend on blow counts. And by blow counts, I mean how many times that hammer has to hit that pile to drive it down. And so if they start getting to the point where they're just not moving that pile, then that's refusal. They'll go to the next pile. So target depth's 40, it could be 30, it could be 50. you know, but that's the
These
target.
are, they're like, there's a steel.
They are, yeah, big steel, you know, basically I-beams,
Yeah.
you know.
So will they be done with that project by next Friday?
They're hoping to be done, yes. Well, they will, that's a little bit of a caveat, because the road crew's still gotta bring in material and build that road up, so it could be closed for another 2-3 days of the following week.
But the bridge itself will be in
The
by,
bridge
should be in by
itself
Friday.
should be intact by the end of next week, barring any material supplier.
They work on
Problem.
Thursday, Thanksgiving.
They are not working Thursday, they may not work Friday. They
It'll be a
may
short
have,
week.
they may have some delivery of materials on Friday, but I don't think any actual work will be getting done on Friday of this week.
So we'll probably be Friday, December 7th, Thursday, December 7th, that'd be the last day that the road crew works. You think the road crew will be done by then, or are we looking at the 14th?
I think we probably should make it the 14th, but I would guess they'll get done sooner than that.
Okay. I'll let the emergency vehicles,
Yeah.
people know,
Just for, yeah,
Thanks.
the Carson Lane closure.
responders.
Do we have any news on our extension request?
We do not.
Okay,
That is still a little bit up in the air, although we may not even need it, to be honest with you.
okay,
The current schedule with the bridges have them being completed in January,
nice.
as far as that goes. So, you know, as far as the county's work, that won't be an issue. The only two outstanding projects would be the Wilson, the deep, you know, the bank stabilization project, and then whatever happens at Antonix. So, we've got a survey completed and kind of got a little preliminary plan that we need to go over with Sam Antonik to see if he still wants to move forward with that. I'm hoping he does, because then we got another scope of work change. But, yeah, I think things are moving along. You know, honestly, can we get it all done? Yeah, I think we can with the schedule we have. We're still gonna put the request in,
Sure,
to make sure that we have time, but that's where
Okay.
we're at.
Are they moving to Lightning Bar next and?
Yes, that would be so they'll go from Carson to Lightning Barn to Clopton in that progression.
On the Reach 15 Wilson property,
Mhm.
is he prepared for his 25%, would be about $4,500, he prepared to?
He is prepared for that.
How will
yes.
that transfer, you'll pay the contractor direct?
So, I still have to get that kind of worked out. I believe that's gotta go through the county, so I think he's gotta cut a check to the county. And then we would submit that reimbursement request out and come back. So I think any draws that would come out, he's gonna have to submit his 25% match. We're gonna have to probably, as the county, submit that 75% and then we get reimbursed. And I think that's kind of what you guys had decided early on. I do have some memorandum of understandings that I will send to you guys via email today from Bob Murdo, which I talked to Corey about that, and he's got a draft for both Antonik and Wilson to do that, and they look pretty basic and pretty clean to me, so Bob and I worked back and forth on that last week. But so I'll send those to you guys and make sure you're good with that. I would say before we do any work on both of those properties, just because, you know, they're gonna have to submit that match and anyway, we've gotta have those agreements in place before we can do that work, would be my opinion on that. The Sauter residence thing is a completely separate issue, cause he just did it and got it done. So there wasn't any match requests, although we've gotta submit that documentation to FEMA to see if he can get reimbursed. And last but not least, so Nadine Wadsworth will be coming out, I believe, within the next week or so to review the Dry Creek work with Dana and TJ, and I'll try to make sure I'm there with that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That was a lot to take in, I know, but I think I got it in 15 minutes.
You
You said this is 68,000, what's this one here now, it shows 50?
Yeah, so, the, sneak around behind you.
Yeah.
Franklin. So this is the Deep Creek one, which is, total invoices to date are 68,000. So we gotta submit, of that amount, 51,000 comes back, right? The other part is the 25%
Oh,
match.
okay.
This does spell out the total match remaining after all of these draws, which is still $33,000, is what we have from those grants that's remaining to be done. This particular project, so the total cost on this one was less than what we thought. The approved federal share was like $65,000, but the total cost was only $51,000. And so that's all totaled up here. We ended up with, from the Broadwater County Road Crews, they had extra match, so they had a $38,000 match, essentially, so it more than covered the 25% match.
Mhm. So now, what is it you need to?
So I need a
signatures on?
signature here and a date here for this particular one, and then I need a signature here for that one,
Okay,
for those two draw requests.
we have a motion on this here?
Shouldn't be needed, but just for extra, I will move that we sign the reports, spelling out the realities of the scope of work.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, move in a second to sign this reimbursement forms. Any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll go to vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay. I signed the one above it, okay, I see. And
Yep.
then the other is 11, 20.
23. And the other one you just have to sign.
This one here.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I guess we'll just give all this back to you, right?
Yep, and I will scan everything and send you guys copies back.
Okay.
And that's all I have for today.
Okay,
Sean.
very good.
Yeah, make sure you guys definitely give a kudos to your crew. That was a lot for those guys to take on. And for their first project to do like that, it went really well. So they did a nice job.
I'm glad to hear that, thank you.
So
I'm
then,
not surprised.
they'll be starting Lightning Barn, well,
Well,
a
it'll
little
be-
over a week at,
I think we've got a week or week and a half gap between bridges, and then we'll start into the next one.
mhm. Weather could be,
It could
Be
be
a
an
factor,
issue,
too.
although it's been pretty nice lately, so let's hope it
Yeah.
stays for a while.
well, this one here with that driving piling, stuff like that is probably,
This one's the critical one
Yeah.
as far as that goes, and the other ones, we can, use ground heaters if we need to. The contractor's actually offered that up, that was part of his extra cost too. So. It looks like we're on track, and, yeah, your
Good.
crews have been efficient and good.
well, thank you.
Yeah,
Are you back to Helen now, or are you heading,
I'm gonna go back out and check on them.
oh,
See what's showing up, because they're gonna be working in the stream today a little bit, and just wanna make sure that we're doing everything according to permit.
yeah, I'm gonna head by Carson today then too. so.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks good, there's a big hole there. That's what we want.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Get out of here.
I know she does a good job.
Okay. 3:30 Val, Clerk of Court, monthly update, ongoing budget review.
Good morning.
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 So I just was looking at my budget and I think everything is looking good right now. The only thing that we do have that's about 50% spent right now is our professional services in our psychiatric examinations. Those are for our mentals. We did have one, that covered one, which was $817. Other than that, everything else looks good. We're just busy doing everyday things. We don't have a judge now until in December, so that's about it.
End of December?
In
Oh,
December,
in December,
yeah.
okay.
So
How is the, having 4 judges working?
it's good. I mean, the scheduling is a little iffy. It takes me more time with the scheduling than just with one judge. Scheduling around everybody's, days off and that type of thing, but we make it happen. So, they're really good guys, and of course Judge Seeley, she's not a guy, but they're very easy to work with. They're very accommodating, so it makes my life easier that way too.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
So how come there was a slack period, there was no judge, or just the way that
Well,
it was on the calendar?
Well, if they have trials and stuff that they can't get away, then we do.
Oh.
And, then we had Veterans Day was on a Friday this year. And so, and with Corey being gone, sometimes if we don't have any civils or anything scheduled, there's no reason for the judges to come down. And a lot of times if we do have a couple civils, they just do it by VisionNet. They just appear from Helena. So, saves them some time and wear and tear and all that good stuff. But, you guys have any questions?
I don't.
No, thank you. I've been wondering how that was working out.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's a little stressful, but sometimes, we all make it work. They're very, like I said, they're very accommodating. A lot of times Judge McMahon, he's the new guy on the new judge on the bench, and he's very, very, if one of the other judges can't come out and if he has time, he's very willing to offer his services.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. A very, very awesome man. If you guys ever get the opportunity to come up and meet him, he'll be here next Friday. I'd suggest that you do so because he goes over and above for us, and I very much appreciate that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So.
Very good, well, thank you
Mm-hmm.
for everything.
Yep.
Let you
So,
go back to your,
back to doing my job, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys ever have any questions, just please, you're always welcome in my office, so. All right, okay, thanks.
Anyway, thank you. Payroll claim in the amount of $188,457.76.
I'll make a motion to pay claims as stated.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay payroll in the amount of $188,457.76. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Someone already signed that. There's no signature page, actually. This is from the Department of Commerce. They're getting things started already on the 2020 census. West Engineering's having an open house December 1st, 2017. If interested. Allison, if you're ready, you made the switch, so you know,
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
yeah, to keep you moving along here.
Sure, yeah.
And I was at Bosby, or where are you heading?
Three Forks.
Oh, Three
We
Forks.
have a planning meeting for our crop school. So, yeah, that's where I'm headed. I have lots of things to give you because I know that you never have too much paper. If you don't want any of it, I'll just take it back, but. And I don't know, before I hand this one out, this is the Townsend Parent Survey. I think you've seen it at BCDC, but I don't know if the two of you have seen it. So this, so I'm a part of the Broadwater Early Childhood Advocate Group, and, did you want a copy, Laura?
Actually, Ann should have one for the
I
record,
have enough, yep.
but no, I've actually, we had a long discussion about it already. at
Oh, good.
2 different meetings.
Good, with the, have
Yeah.
you met, have you talked about it at the commission?
No,
Okay. And so, just to go back, I'm part of that group, and we did this parent survey. Well, it kind of took place into summer, early fall, to just gather input from parents on what they feel are some of the needs or shortcomings with specifically childcare, and some really interesting things came out of it, which I feel, I think as a community, if we all kind of maybe help address some of the needs, we can do it together. So a couple of those things being, there is definitely a need for quality childcare, and then some other, I think, interesting things came out of it, including lack of facilities, that there is people who would like to open a daycare, but they don't want to do it out of their home or can't do it out of their home, and there's really not the facility to do it. As an example, I know someone who tried to open, or buy Dr. Trapp's old building and wanted to open a childcare out of there, which would have been a perfect spot. But that building has some issues, and it's not like you make a lot of money providing daycare, and she's just like, there's just no way I could have made that happen. So, just as an example. So, when you have some time, you know, look through this. I would encourage you to, if this interests you, because I do think it's an issue in our community, especially as we continue to grow and have young families move in with children. And yeah, I think it's going to be a continuing issue unless we find a way to address it. I'll just hand these out next. So we have, I am working on planning out my life until about May. And this is coming up fairly soon. This is the Rancher Roundtable series that I started a couple years ago. And so we have 4 different dates, 2 in December, 2 in January, and some pretty cool topics. Kind of I think the highlight of the session this year is we have Kurt Pate. He's probably anyone who has cattle has heard of him before. He's an expert in cattle handling and stockmanship, and so he's coming for one of them. We're also talking about genomics and DNA technology, stock water system, and then the National Beef Audit. So,
You gotta know ahead of time how many's gonna be coming, don't you?
well, it's not required. It's nice to know so that I can plan the meal, know how much food to prepare for. But if you forget to call me, come anyway. It's okay. We usually have extra, as long as I have a ballpark.
Yeah, okay.
So, so that's coming up here in a couple weeks. The other program I recently got scheduled was this one on understanding exempt water rights. The DNRC is currently going through that process based on some legislative decisions, and so I have Krista Lee Evans coming to do a talk on that, and you can ask her all your hard questions. She's a lobbyist for the legislature, has a consulting business. She also is executive director of the Montana Grain Elevators Association and Agribusiness Association and the Water Rights Coalition. So she's a good speaker. So she's coming in February, and then what else do I have going on? We're doing planning for crop school today. That's been tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, February 21st. I don't have an agenda yet, but hopefully in the next couple weeks we'll have an agenda for that. I'm hoping to do Master Gardener again this winter, spring. If we get enough people, that's tentatively set for 8 weeks starting February 26th, and that would run through April 16th. And then doing an initial private applicator training on March 15th. And then I haven't set a date yet, but I will be doing a Small Acreage Management Institute probably in April. I did it in May this last year, and I think it was almost a little late, so I'm gonna try to do it a little bit earlier this year before people get busy outside, is my thoughts. So, and I think if all that comes to fruition, I think that'll keep me plenty busy. Let's see, other things. We hired an intern. Her name is Michaela Hudson, and she is currently a student at MSU majoring in agriculture education. And she potentially will start on and off after the first of the year. We've budgeted about 10 hours a month from January through April, and then probably middle of May through August. It's 8 hours worth of time, but it won't be necessarily consecutively, if that makes sense. So some weeks she'll be full-time and other weeks she'll be part-time, just depending on how that works out. So I'm excited about that.
Is she a relative of the Hudsons that were?
She is, yep, she's related. I don't remember her dad's name, but Tony, who I know, is her uncle. And yeah, they grew up here. Yep,
Mhm.
yep. So kind of fun connection. But her family lives in Potomac, south of Missoula.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yep.
Scott, perhaps?
That sounds like could be right, yeah, let's see. 4-H continues to go full force. The new 4-H year has started. We had our achievement night last week. And I don't remember if I mentioned this last month, but we have a new club forming. It's the first new club since 1986. So they continue to work towards obtaining their charter. We applied for MRA grant to improve our shotgun program. That grant application was due November 1st. So that's been submitted, so now we just wait and see. And then the last thing I'll just update you on as far as my time this time of year is where a lot of our reports are due. Just have some annual reports we do with the college and university, and so those are usually due in December, so I've started those. So let's just take a little time of office work to focus and write. So I've been doing that. Yeah, those are the main things on my list. Is there any questions, concerns, comments for me?
We're hearing a lot of people say this is reporting season,
Yeah.
so I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, 'tis the season, right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, yeah, it slows down a little bit, so it makes sense with the holidays,
Yeah, it does.
so, yeah.
Yeah, I get a pretty full plate.
Yeah, yeah. So I was trying to get all these things, dates and whatnot, programs set and speakers contacted so that December I can focus on some of those office details that I put off. So, yeah, all right. Anything else?
Okay, unless anybody has any more questions for her, we'll thank you and let you get on your way.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Good job, Allison, thanks.
We're past public comment, but are you, do you have it, no public
Did you do the
comment?
mosquito part yet?
Pardon?
The mosquito?
No, we have not.
Okay. That, I wanted to hear what that discussion was.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's see,
Thank you for asking.
If he switched, so he should be here at 11:15 then.
Oh, okay.
There was Allison had a deal in 3/4, so they made a switch, so those times are changed there. And I'm pretty sure his is the one he's the one she swapped with. I got this. Yeah, this email too from, Charlie on the TV. Getting those new channels and that dish set up, and I guess you call it a dish and all that. Here's the invoice. Did you get this, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any-
One thing that I think it's important to point out is the complimentary words that Charlie had for our staff, specifically Mike Myers, and all the time and work he put into getting that done. He hasn't had that kind of assistance here, and I think it's worth pointing that out in Charlie's letter.
Franklin, would you pass that to me for the minutes, please?
Sure.
One of the things too is he did have a complaint, it's addressed in here as well. And he did address that, and it was on audio difficulties. He investigated it and contacted the person himself. Charlie did. And I also think that that's going above and beyond. He's done a great job for us. I want to thank you again for allowing Mike to help me with this project. He did a great, all caps, job, exclamation mark. So I think when we have those kinds of compliments, we should acknowledge them.
You're still scheduled for 10:45, Scott?
Well, I was gonna ask, was, I think Allison had requested that we switch times.
And she's already been here, Allison.
She has?
Yeah,
Okay. So
so I guess,
if you want, we can come ready.
okay,
So,
let's go ahead and do it. It is 10:45 now.
go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. I just was gonna do our monthly update, review with budgets and stuff and see if you had any questions. I've reviewed the 2140 budgets. It looks like we're at 44% spent. I don't foresee any major expenditures until at least spring of next year, which that's usually when our kind of expenditures come about, is if we have any repairs, maintenances on equipment or any herbicides purchased. I'm working on an inventory of chemical for that. We are sitting pretty darn good with all of our chemical. I don't believe that we should have to purchase any herbicides or anything like that. So our 2840, our grants budget, it shows that we're 89% spent. However, I'm working with Debbie Kelly. Somehow in her reporting errors, the line 398 shows expenditures from our special grants, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, but it shows that the money spent on special grants, like the Deep Creek grant and things like that, ended up on that regular grant budget. So we'll be working with her. I'll continue working with her and get that cleared up. The mosquito budget is showing that I'm at 25% spent there on the year. So I think we're sitting really good on that. Working with the board on how we want to go forward for next spring and doing things like that. Any questions on the budgets?
What did you say the expenditure in the mosquito budget?
25%.
25, okay.
Yeah. Did you folks have you had a chance to look at the grants or the budgets? I just printed off just a quick budget. I'll let you look at them real quick. And I just printed one off. I didn't know if you'd want to look at them or if you might have any questions. But
And I did email these to Mike and Franklin before the meeting, so that they'd have a chance to review before.
okay.
And not only for you, but for Val, for Allison, and for whoever else is coming to see us today, Linda.
And that's understandable. I mean, we're all busy, so sometimes it's hard to go through every budget, and you know, sometimes questions arise at these moments. So,
One of the things that we need to remind ourselves too with your budgets is both of them, your biggest expenditure time frame is at the very beginning of the fiscal year, more so with weed than for
Well-
mosquito.
well, both of them actually. My biggest expenditure times usually fall between May and October. You know, or right now, November, which that'll carry me into my second point. You know, as I wanted to talk about. This is, despite what everybody thinks, this is probably one of my busier times of year right now, because right now is a reporting period for all of these special grants or for the MOUs with the BLM, the Forest Service and all that stuff. Usually I have a deadline of December 1st to get all these reporting issues done and taken care of, and all the invoicing taken care of for these things. Of course, some of them fluctuate, and so you can carry on a fiscal year and just do one annual report. Some of them require a quarterly report. But that's what I've been working on for the last month and a half, is trying to make sure that all the budget is expended in the proper categories in the right ways, making sure that all these agencies and grantors get their bills. And you know, this year I've got 8 different weed grants and MOUs that I've been working with, not including the city MOU. So that's just your MOUs or special grants that I'm controlling. I have expended, out of those 8 grants, I have expended $46,396,000, and I'm still working on closing out one of the grants, which is the Deep Creek grant. I have to have all that money expended and closed out no later than December 1st. Which I'm going through all that process right now. The BLM, I expended $14,000 in aerial applications this year, which I've got these notes I can give to you, Ann. So if you have questions, I can give you these notes. But $14,000, we had a major cooperative efforts this year between BLM, the Forest Service, and I sponsored a couple of grants this year for all the Winston area. $14,000 was spent aerially through the BLM MOU in the Winston Noxious Weed Trust Fund, or not Trust Fund, sorry, that is wrong, RAC grant. $20,000 was spent aerially in July. $8,000 was spent through the MOU contract with the Forest Service in aerial spraying in Kimber Gulch. $4,369.70 was spent aerially in a Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation grant, also in the Kimber areas and in the Sheps Gulch areas through these grants. And these were all collaborative efforts through BLM, Forest Service, the RAC committee, and Broadwater County, as we are the sponsors of these grants. the Winston Rat grant, part of that grant was 5,000 purchase of herbicide to be redistributed to the landowners in that area for helping create a buffer zone between the public and private lands. That did not happen, so that money will be carried over, or that herbicide will be carried over till the 2018 in the spring, where there will be spray days held. Again, collaborative efforts between the landowners, Broadwater County, BLM, and the Forest Service. So, in helping create that buffer zone and keeping that buffer zone. There is some remaining funds in the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation grant that will be carried over until this spring, where we hope to get a helicopter back in and do some work. I have been working with BLM. I think they want to bring the helicopter back in also. So, and still have $3,000 in what they call the Forest Service Elkhorns Agreement, MOU. That is to be spent in like Eagle Basin area, or the northern portion of the Elkhorns up in there. That's $3,000 to be done through a commercial applicator on roadside treatments. That was carried over till 2018. There's $5,000 in the White's Gulch area. There's 10,000 in the Big Belts of the Big Belts Mountains both of them carried through the Forest Service agreements. I believe that 10,000 was carried over to 2018, and so was the 5,000, as that was assigned to a commercial applicator for roadside treatments. I am waiting. I've kind of heard that the Forest Service had released those this fall, but I have not seen any invoicing or any paperwork that says that the applicators got to the work. So I'm going to treat that one until otherwise instructed as a carryover. So that's where the $46,396.70, that's where it goes back to the 2840, showing that I've expended 89% under line item 398. That 46,000 was taken out of my general grants fund, and it should not have been, and I don't know, that was according to Debbie, that's just a journal entry, because it should not have been expended out of that. It should have been expended out of those special grant funds. She's working on that. She's fully aware of this, and she has it handled. So, but that's where, as you're looking at them grants, that's where that line items come from. So. The 25% out of the mosquito, I guess. As we all probably know, nothing was done with the contracted services in mosquito this year, and so as far as the MOUs go with the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, none of the 17,000 was expended. It's my understanding that the contractor will not be sending us any invoices, and so we will have to renegotiate terms of contracts come this spring. And I don't know, I will be working with FWP and those folks to see what kind of reporting they require, and if those funds will transfer over. I think that we lose them at the end of the year, each year, so it'll be new 17,100 this year. I think that's their cap. So. Questions? Like I say, I have just some bullet point information that I'd be happy to share with you when I'm done and turn this in. These are just kind of my notes. Another thing that that's a big part of my life this time of year and throughout the whole season, but throughout the fall and the winter and the spring, is a lot of our meeting times. Whether it's with the mosquito or the weed. We have a lot of our conferences, a lot of our agency meetings, and a lot of our training so that we can keep up on the current issues and all that stuff is throughout the year. I just recently attended 2 of them. I attended the fall conference, Montana Weed Control Association conference. It was a great training that we talked about all kinds of things like personnel issues on hiring and firing seasonal employees and that kind of stuff. We had a course that was called putting the super and supervisor, and it helped, you know, it was kind of a leadership course. I've seen quite a few of them. Personally, I thought it was a great one. It kind of talked about the points of, you know, not micromanaging, but, you know, kind of going in and just kind of helping people and pushing them forward and keeping things positive on a positive note. Letting them do, but being open, you know, to not micromanaging, you know, every little detail of every little thing, you know, helping people with the tools, keeping your employees feeling a self-worth so that, you know, their productivity is at the maximum. I think that's one thing we, you know, and I do it, you know, once in a while as we get so focused on output and production that we forget that, you know, then people need to see the reward too a little bit, to be able to maximize that production. And I think we all have a tendency a little bit to look at some of the negatives over the positives, and this one just kind of brought light to me, you know, too, that, you know, hey, giving that little bit of thanks, that little bit of reward to them employees, you know, keeps them going out there, especially in a job like ours, or mine, where you're out fighting the elements, you're out, you know, working, walking, hiking, doing all this stuff, you know, working with chemicals and not such ideal conditions all the time, you know, reward them and say, hey, let's go out here and take a minute and let's go look in the field, let's go see what we're doing, you know, if there's ways or, you know, if there's things that we can fix, let's work together instead of my way or the highway, you know, kind of an attitude. And I think that really reflected with me, because we all need a reminder sometimes that, you know, everybody's human. Let's, instead of just getting in our own little boxes, let's kind of think outside the box sometimes, you know, how can we reward these people? And then it also kind of helped, you know, with if there is an incident or something, you know, the two correlated on how to respond to them, you know. People make mistakes, things happen, you know, how do we move forward with them, you know, kind of things. And so that one, you know, putting the super and supervisor really helped with me there too. So the annual conference for the weed is January 9th through 11th, 2018. This is for everybody. This is probably one of the biggest conferences other than the NASMA conference in the nation. This is where everybody across the state, weed managers,